I'm going to talk about on a topic which has not been touched upon in this conference, polypharmacy. So, risks of polypharmacy in older women. So, before we go further, let us know what polypharmacy is. It is the regular use of 5 or more regular medicines at the same time. When I say same time, it doesn't mean popping them in at the same time, it means in 24 hours. And when I say regular medicines, it means what she is taking regularly. Supposing a woman is taking 3 tablets and then, she gets a cold and then the doctor prescribes her a decongestant or a cough mixture that adds up to 5. So that doesn't become polypharmacy because it's only a temporary sort of time in her life. So regularly if she's taking more than 5 medications, that accounts for polypharmacy. Next we come to a very important question. When is a person considered old? Old age is commonly considered to begin around 60-65 years. The United Nations and WHO think after 60 plus you're old. Increasing life expectancy has led to some new classifications like young old 65 to 74 and old more than 85. Experts suggest don't talk about chronological age, think about biological aging, that is the health of the cells and tissues. And then when you interview people, the perception of old age differs. This was done in UK and they found that age 64, when a woman was asked, when does old age starts? She says maybe 74.7 years. And at age 74, when another woman was asked, she said it starts at 76.8. So what does that mean? It means, on an average, the perceived onset of old age increases by about 1 year for every 4 to 5 years of actual aging. So that means that even if I'm old, I don't think I'm old. So, well, in India, coming back home, 60 plus is considered elderly. In the US and the UK, it is 65 plus, whereas in Japan, where they have very long lives, 70 plus is called old elderly. Now, why was this topic given? Why is polypharmacy important? It's more common in older people, and we deal with older people due to multiple chronic health conditions and can pose risks of adverse outcomes and with increased mortality. Persons in a study again in UK, it was seen that persons more than 65 years constitute only 14% of the population, but they consume more than 33% of prescription, which is not really good. And managing polypharmacy is an emerging challenge for all of us. So it can be appropriate when you give medicines which are targeted for chronic ailments. Suppose you give antihypertensives for hypertension, yes, that is appropriate polypharmacy. But it can be inappropriate when one or more medications are prescribed without any clinical indication. And this may have the potential of adverse outcomes. So these may account to almost 11.5 to 62.5%. So then when that is the case, they have given it a new name called potentially inappropriate medication or PIM. Now, the other way you can have polypharmacy is by over-the-counter medications and complementary medications. We all know that OTC medicines are very common in the older age group. Why? They don't want to trouble their children with small ailments. They'll quietly go to the friendly pharmacist close by and ask him to give a laxative or a vitamin or some such thing. Again, a combo of allopathy and Ayurvedic medicines or even Unani can be potentially dangerous because we don't know their composition rather, and we don't know how they will react with allopathic medicines. And all of us are aware that amongst our patients, less than half of them will tell us that they are taking OTC medicines unless we specifically ask for it. And again, we also know that patients who have been prescribed a medicine long back for some ailment, they continue to take the medicine even today. Why? Because they felt good when they took it then, and they feel that they're feeling good even now. So they continue. So all this adds to polypharmacy. Again, why we worried about polypharmacy in the aged? Because drugs, the pharmacokinetics of drugs change with aging. So what do we mean by pharmacokinetics? Absorption, distribution, metabolism, and elimination. All this we understand, but it's better to just bring it very sort of briefly. The absorption is slower, and there's a delayed peak action. And we all know that the size of the liver and the blood flow decreases with age. So drugs with an extensive first pass effect may be in higher concentrations as the liver metabolizes less with less drug. Again, distribution. The body water and the lean body mass are diminished in old people. So hydrophilic water-soluble drugs have a lower volume of distribution, and since the fat stores are increased, lipophilic fat-soluble drugs have a higher volume of distribution. Albumin is less. So what happens if albumin is less? We find that there's a higher level of unbound, active, free drug in the circulation. Then metabolism, because the hepatic, I've already told you that the liver metabolism is decreased to almost 30% as we grow older. We find that the phase 1 reactions, which are catalyzed by cytochrome P450, this phase 1 reaction is decreased in old age, whereas phase 2 reactions, which are usually glucuronidation, that is okay. So what does that mean? That we need to know the metabolism, the pharmacokinetics of the drugs we prescribe before we prescribe them in the elderly. So in the elderly, phase 2 reactive drugs should be prescribed more than phase 1. The metabolism, that is over. Now elimination. Again, most of the drugs are eliminated through the kidneys, and we know that the renal size, blood flow, the GFR, the creatinine, all of them come down. Just looking at the serum creatinine, don't think that her kidney function is good, because as we grow older, the serum creatinine remains low. So even if her kidney is badly damaged to a certain extent, the creatinine will not rise immediately. So the best way to gauge it is by doing a creatinine clearance before prescribing drugs. Now we come to the risks of polypharmacy. There are multiple risks. One is adverse drug reactions. Yes, 5 to 28% of acute geriatric hospital admissions were due to ADR, adverse drug reactions, from inappropriate drug therapy. Again, drug interactions. The more the drugs, the greater the chances of drug interactions. And the cardiovascular drugs are the worst culprits. What about drug-disease interactions? Yes, in which medicine taken for one disease, makes another health problem worse. Then we have another problem, non-compliance to medication. Non-compliance can be because of many reasons. One is that as the woman ages, she will not be able to take so many drugs. So she feels she can do without a few drugs, and this she does without informing the physician or the family members. Second thing is, too many drugs, too much of expenditure. She doesn't want her children to bear that much of expenditure, so she again cuts out and doesn't tell them. And the third thing, which is more common, is most of the tablets, they look similar. So when she sees the tablet, she thinks maybe I've put the double dose again. I have duplicated the tablet. So she takes out one tablet thinking that she has duplicated it. And what happens is treatment failure and more hospitalizations. And of course, I've mentioned. So the other ones are prescribing cascades. This is a very important risk with polypharmacy. You may give additional drugs. Why? To treat side effects or drug interactions by misinterpreting the adverse drug effect as a new medical condition. Like the patient may be drowsy, she may complain of constipation, she may complain of diarrhea, incontinence. All these can be side effects of the drug she is taking. But the physician, who may not be aware of the side effects, the whole range of side effects, may prescribe her another drug, and that increases the number of drugs. Then again, dry mouth syndrome or xerostomia. This is also very common because cardiovascular medications, plan antidepressants, antipsychotics, and anticholinergics, all these can cause dry mouth. Oversedation, yes, because I've already told you what happens in the pharmacokinetics. Quite a lot of drugs can give rise to oversedation, confusion, loss of balance, dizziness, and this can cause falls. polypharmacy has also been known to be an independent risk factor of hip fractures. And we all know what happens in the first year after hip fracture. This increased tendency to falls has been seen in 29% of those who take polypharmacy within the first year of their drug intake. Well, there was a question, does the number of medications increase the risk of falls? Yes, definitely. There was a study which showed that injurious falls, not just falling and not hurting yourself, but falls which make you feel, which give rise to injuries. They were 1.8 times greater among those prescribed more than 10 drugs compared to only one drug. That was in a large case control study. Then again, in a large prospective cohort of more than 5 lakh older adults, polypharmacy, here they restricted themselves to only more than 5. They had a 2-fold increase in the incidence of falls again in 1 year. So on an average, the risk of falls increased by 2% for each additional drug. So let us see why falls increase. We all know old age, yes. Female sex, of course, we are more prone to falls compared to men. Then they have women who have multiple diseases, with muscle weakness, sarcopenia, with balance issues, with impaired vision, which is also a part of old age, with Parkinsonism and dementia, which make the onset too. And again, apart from this, if there is alcoholism, luckily most of our old women are not prone to alcoholism. Urge incontinence. We all know that when you want to pass urine urgently, you rush to the toilet and there you don't see what is there on the way, and you may trip and fall. And last, polypharmacy and FRITS. Now that's another new term which I'm introducing. What are FRITS? They are specific drugs which increase the risk of falls. Fall risk increasing drugs. They are called FRITS. Now these FRITS produce the falls mostly through the secondary effects, by mobility difficulties, imbalance, dizziness, etc. So just to show you, there are 13 classes of FRITS, but just for your convenience, I put them as antihypertensives, antidepressants, anticholinergics, analgesics, sedatives, and hypnotics. Multiple FRITS in a prescription is an independent risk factor for falls. Supposing a woman is taking only 2 drugs and both the drugs are FRITS, then she has a higher chance of falling than the other woman who's taking 5 and there's no FRIT in it. Okay? Antidepressants are the worst, I've already told you. And Zias reported that the use of 2 or more FRITS independently predicted recurrent and injurious falls. So this is the FRITS classification just to show you. So polypharmacy increases fall risk by a cumulative effect. Now some common examples of prescription cascade, which most of us are guilty of. A calcium channel blocker for hypertension can cause pedal edema, which can be mistaken for a new condition and a diuretic prescribed. So what happens? You add to the fetal total pill count. An anticholinergic for bladder control can cause confusion and constipation, for which you add a laxative. Count increases, yes. Now what about some examples of drug reactions? Beta blockers, when given with insulin or sulfonylureas, may mask hypoglycemic symptoms, potentially a very dangerous condition in older people. Co-administration of renin-angiotensin system inhibitors with potassium-sparing diuretics increases the risk of hyperkalemia, and we know that there can be sudden fatality with hyperkalemia. Co-prescribing aspirin with clopidogrel or warfarin can increase the risk of bleeding, especially in people who have CKD. And we all know about tamoxifen and paroxetine, that the effectiveness of tamoxifen decreases when it is given with paroxetine, any SSRIs. And then of course psychiatric polypharmacy is the worst, which has both type A and type B adverse drug reactions. Now there is something called a clinical decision support system. This is incorporated in electronic health records. So in electronic health records in corporate hospitals, you have this tool called CDSS, and this is to help clinicians deal with complicated medication regimens. So what happens if a clinician prescribes a drug which has a lot of side effects when co-prescribed with another drug? The CDSS gives you an alert that here you're wrong. Of course, this is AI supported, and we know that AI has totally entered our lives, not just now, from a long time. But the effect of the CDSS can only be seen if the data which you feed in the desktop or in the computer is perfect. The age of the patient, the disease she is having, what are her renal values, the values of other drugs, everything have to be entered in detail. Then you get the alerts. So if properly used, CDSS can reduce 20 to 30% of preventable ADR related hospitalization and definitely improved adherence to safe prescribing practices. So now how do we evaluate polypharmacy? There are so many tools if only we know what they are. You have interdisciplinary teams. Interdisciplinary teams should use comprehensive medication review, comprehensive geriatric assessment, assess, review, minimize, optimize, reassess, ADR probability scale, the drug burden index for anticholinergic drugs, specifically for anticholinergic and sedative, that is DBI-SE, the anticholinergic cognitive burden, that's a separate one, and the trigger tool. So many tools are there to identify polypharmacy and its adverse effects. Now, what are the strategies to prevent or to manage polypharmacy? Avoid starting potentially harmful medications. For this, we need to use the Beers criteria. This is another very important criteria which all of us should be familiar with. It will come in the next slide. Each patient should have just one consolidated prescription. Maintain an accurate, updated medication list. It's very important. She comes with a list which is 2 years old. That's of no use to us. She has to carry the latest, and we have to make sure she does it. Again, to avoid refills, once the medicines get over, she may go to the pharmacist and just take it without finding out whether she has a need to take the same medicine at the same dose. So to avoid refills without doctor's advice and to regulate the refills at the pharmacist level. Find out who her regular pharmacist is, so that we can contact that pharmacist and see that her refills are done correctly. And avoid overdosage of a drug, because there are so many overlapping prescriptions in multi-component magic pills. Now, just to quote an example, we all know in our own specialty that folic acid, then vitamin B6 and vitamin B12 is present in every prescription, whether it is iron, whether it is calcium, or whether it is for the folic acid pill which is taken in the first 3 months or before pregnancy. How many of us are looking at the composition of these iron preparations, these calcium preparations, just to check out whether we are overdosing our people with folic acid and B12? It is wrong. So we need to do a recheck with ourselves. Then screen for drug-drug and drug-disease interactions. Refer to CDSS, I've already told you about it, and artificial intelligence for assistance, and use a team approach. I'll give you another slide. There's no drug without side effects, so more drugs means more side effects. Some more strategies. Ask the patients to bring all prescriptions, medications, OTC supplements, and whatever herbal supplements she's taking whenever she comes to visit you. You can help patients by putting a notice in your clinic or hospital telling patients, please carry your prescriptions with you, please carry your medications with you. So when we are not adept with all the trade names of so many drugs which are beyond our purview, like hypertension, diabetes, so many new medicines have come into the market. So what do? When they bring the prescription, we look into our Google and check out the composition and see if it is okay or not. So it is always better if she brings her medications with her, and we can do this by putting up a notice in our clinic and see that they do it every time they come and see us. The other one is try to link each prescribed medicine with its diagnosis. What a lovely prescription if you can write the trade name. In brackets, you write the pharmacological name, and then the disease you're prescribing it for. Now, this lady, if she goes to a village and she goes to a PHC for whatever problem she has, the PHC doctor, who may not be well versed with everything, will have a look at the prescription and he will know what to do. So we need to make it totally so that concise for the patient, so that wherever she goes, she is protected and safe. Evaluate monthly to reduce the incidence and adverse effects. Yeah, just 2 more slides. Evaluate monthly to reduce the incidence and adverse effects of polypharmacy regimens in the old. Prescribe a single drug instead of prescribing many drugs. Start with a smaller dose. Prefer drugs that can be given once or twice a day instead of 3 or 4 times a day. Stop a drug which has no therapeutic beneficial effect or clinical indication, that is the PIMS, and substitute higher risk drugs with safer drugs. Beer's criteria, very important. This has been made by the American Geriatric Society. It revises it every 3 years. The last revision was last year, 2025. It has 5 sections. This is specifically for potentially inappropriate medication, PIMS, used in older adults, and this has a list of medications that healthcare providers refer to safely prescribe medications for people above the age of 65. So the 5 sections are: avoid these medicines if the patient is over 65 years and if she is not in a hospice or a palliative setting, meaning if she is at home, then you must avoid. If she is in a hospice, then maybe you need not avoid because she will be supervised. To avoid in people with certain health conditions, they will specify that. To avoid medications that cause drug interactions when combined with other medications. To avoid with harmful side effects that outweigh the benefits, and to use in limited doses, last slide, to use in limited doses or avoided due to the effects on kidney function. This is very important. So whenever the patient has CKD, certain drugs, the list will be given by Beer's criteria, you have to avoid. Now this was made by Harsh, and it has appeared in Curious in November 2025. It is the team approach, the interdisciplinary medication review model. You start with the physician on the top, then the pharmacist, you look into the EHR and the CDSS, the nurse, the family, the caregiver, and then the social worker, the community support, all of them help. Of course, you follow the guidelines. They help in safe prescribing, in reduced ADRs and DDIs, drug disease interactions, and with an improved quality of life. So in conclusion, the care of older adults can be challenging because they may require multiple medications to manage their complex medical problems. Optimizing the medication regime is one of the critical elements in comprehensive geriatric care. Adverse drug events are one of the severe consequences of polypharmacy, and this possibility should always be considered when evaluating an older patient with a new symptom until proven otherwise. Is this a new disease, or is it a fallout of a currently used medication? For that, we have to be good in our pharmacology. This strategy can prevent prescribing cascades and even the risk of hospitalizations. Identifying and avoiding polypharmacy can lead to better outcomes and improved quality of life in the elderly. Medical review, Beer's criteria, all these have to be used. Follow the 5 rights of medication use: the right patient, the right drug, the right time, the right dose, and the right route for safe medication practices, especially in the elderly. Poison is in everything. There's nothing that is not poison. The dosage makes it either a poison or a remedy. This was quoted by the great alchemist Paracelsus. So the need of the hour is intelligent polypharmacy. You cannot get rid of polypharmacy completely, but let us make it intelligent. So it is important that we balance efficacy of a drug with its safety, so that we are concerned about the efficacy, but let us also be concerned about the safety of the drug in our old patients. So let us all try to make our old women live longer, healthily and safely. Thank you so much, and thank you for the extra minute.